The rain was so heavy the night Lena was buried that Ethan could barely see the funeral home from the parking lot. Water streamed down his black suit while thunder rolled somewhere above the trees, but he didn't move. He just stood there staring at his phone, replaying the same voice message over and over again. If anything happens to me, don't trust Marcus. The recording ended in static. Ethan swallowed hard. His sister had drowned 3 days earlier. Everyone in town believed it was an accident. The police said she slipped near the lake outside town sometime after midnight. Open and shut case. But Lena had sounded terrified. People slowly exited the funeral home behind him, speaking in hushed voices. Ethan barely noticed them until someone stepped beside him beneath the flickering parking lot light. Marcus Hale. Tall, calm, perfectly dressed in black, despite the storm, Lena's therapist. Marcus placed a hand gently on Ethan's shoulder. Your sister was struggling for a long time. Ethan stared ahead. She told me she was scared. Marcus nodded slowly like he'd expected that answer. Grief changes memories. It makes us hear things differently. Then Marcus walked away through the rain toward his car. That was when Ethan noticed the mud on Marcus's shoes. Fresh mud, like he'd been somewhere deep in the woods. Ethan frowned slightly, but before he could think further, his phone buzzed violently in his hand. Unknown number, a new voicemail. His stomach tightened as he pressed play. Static crackled through the speaker. Then Lena whispered, "If he sees this, I'm dead." Ethan froze. The message timestamp read 10 minutes ago. His sister had already been in the ground for over an hour. The drive home felt unreal. Rain hammered Ethan's windshield while Lena's voice echoed in his head again and again. "If he sees this, I'm dead." By the time he reached his apartment, his hands were shaking. He locked the door behind him and immediately replayed the voicemail at full volume. At first, there was only breathing, then a creaking sound, footsteps, and suddenly, Lena whispered something else. "He's here." The recording cut out. Ethan stared at the screen. His apartment suddenly felt too quiet, too still. Then he noticed something in the reflection of his laptop screen, a figure standing behind him in the hallway. Ethan spun around so fast he nearly fell. Nothing. The hallway was empty. His breathing became uneven as he grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter and slowly checked every room in the apartment. Closets, bathroom, bedroom, nothing. But when he looked back down at the voicemail details, his blood ran cold. Location sent from Riverside Apartments, his building. Someone had sent the voicemail from inside his apartment complex less than an hour ago. That night, Ethan barely slept. Around 3 a.m., he finally remembered something Lena had told him months earlier during one of their arguments. "If anything happens to me, go to my apartment first." At the time, he'd thought she was being dramatic. Now, he wasn't so sure. The hallway outside Lena's apartment smelled stale and abandoned. Management hadn't cleaned anything since the police investigation ended. Ethan unlocked the door slowly and stepped inside. Dust covered the counters. Dead plants leaned toward the dark windows. A half-finished cup of coffee still sat beside the couch. It looked like Lena had simply disappeared mid-conversation. But the strangest part was the origami birds. Dozens of them hung from the ceiling with nearly invisible strings, swaying gently in the darkness. Ethan remembered Lena folding those constantly when they were kids. She used to say people hid pieces of themselves inside the things they created. His flashlight moved carefully across the apartment until he noticed one bird, spinning slowly above Lena's bedroom doorway. Inside the folded paper was a set of coordinates. Ethan frowned. The lake. The same lake where Lena supposedly drowned. A loud thud suddenly echoed somewhere deeper in the apartment. Ethan turned instantly. Silence. "Hello." No response. His flashlight beam trembled slightly as he stepped towards the bedroom. The door creaked open on its own. Nothing inside, just darkness. And another origami bird hanging above the bed. This one had a single sentence written inside. "He remembers more than he thinks." Ethan's chest tightened. Before he could process it, footsteps suddenly creaked above him from the apartment upstairs. Slow, heavy, watching. Ethan backed away and left, immediately. By the time he reached the lake, fog had swallowed nearly everything. Moonlight barely reflected across the black water, while trees creaked softly in the wind around him. The coordinates led him to an old wooden dock near the far side of the shore. Using a flashlight and his hands, Ethan dug into the wet dirt beneath the dock until his fingers struck metal, a waterproof container. Inside were stacks of cash, several hard drives, and an old VHS tape labeled with one word, Marcus. Ethan rushed back to his car and inserted the tape into a portable player he kept from college. Static flickered across the screen. Then Lena appeared. She looked terrified. The camera angle was hidden, like someone had secretly recorded the room. Marcus stood across from her, speaking calmly. "You're making him unstable again." Lena's voice cracked. "He deserves the truth." Marcus stepped closer. "You have no idea what happens if he remembers." Ethan leaned closer to the screen. Lena suddenly noticed the hidden camera. Her eyes widened directly towards the lens. "Ethan, if you find this, he lied about everything." A bright flashlight suddenly slammed against Ethan's windshield. Ethan looked up sharply. Marcus stood outside the car, smiling. Rain dripped from his face while fog curled around him like smoke. Ethan locked the doors instantly. Marcus tapped lightly on the glass. "You shouldn't be watching that." Ethan sped away before Marcus could say another word. The next morning, Marcus texted him an address, an old roadside diner outside town. Against every instinct in his body, Ethan went. The diner was empty except for Marcus sitting alone in the corner, drinking coffee like nothing had happened. Ethan slammed the VHS tape onto the table. "You killed her." Marcus sighed softly. "No, Ethan." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were medical records, psychiatric evaluations, reports describing violent dissociation, blackouts, memory gaps. Ethan's stomach twisted. "What is this?" Marcus looked directly into his eyes. "You were there the night Lena died." Ethan laughed nervously. "No, you just don't remember it." Marcus leaned forward. "You pushed her." The words hit like a gunshot. Suddenly flashes tore through Ethan's mind. Lake water. Lena screaming, blood on his hands. A woman crying. Ethan grabbed his head. "Stop." "The mind hides things it can't survive," Marcus said quietly. Ethan stumbled out of the diner, gasping for air. The memories came faster after that. Broken glass, a child screaming, his father shouting. Then one horrifying image, young Ethan standing over a body covered in blood. His father's body. Ethan nearly crashed his car trying to process it. By sunset, he found himself driving toward Marcus's cabin deep in the woods. He needed answers. The cabin walls were covered with surveillance photos, pictures of Ethan, pictures of Lena, medical charts, tape recordings, years of obsession. Marcus stepped from another room slowly. "I tried to protect you." "From what?" Marcus stared at him for a long moment before speaking. "When you were 11, your father attacked Lena." Another memory exploded into Ethan's mind. Young Ethan grabbing a heavy object, swinging it, blood splattering across the kitchen floor. "You killed him protecting your sister," Marcus whispered. "Your mind shattered afterward." Ethan collapsed into a chair, trembling violently. Lena wanted you to remember, Marcus continued, but some truths destroy people. That was when Ethan noticed Lena's necklace sitting on Marcus's desk. Fresh blood stained the chain. Fear crawled up Ethan's spine. "Where is she?" Marcus said nothing. Then Ethan heard it, a faint sound beneath the floorboards. Breathing. Ethan followed the noise to the basement door. Locked, he forced it open. The basement looked like something from a nightmare. Old tape recorders lined the walls beside medical equipment and restraints. Hundreds of cassette tapes were stacked in boxes labeled with dates stretching back years. Each one had Ethan's name written on it. Realization hit him slowly. Marcus had been experimenting on him, altering memories, recording episodes, trying to control whatever Ethan became after the trauma. Marcus appeared behind him. "You were dangerous." Ethan turned furiously. "You manipulated my entire life." "You would have killed again." Marcus lunged at him. The two crashed violently into shelves while tape recorders smashed across the floor. Suddenly, one recorder clicked on by itself. Lena's voice filled the basement. "Ethan, none of this was your fault." Everything stopped. Marcus looked genuinely shaken hearing her voice again. "She wanted you to forgive yourself," Marcus whispered. The fight resumed instantly. Ethan slammed Marcus backward into a metal shelf. Marcus lost balance and fell directly onto exposed steel. Silence. Blood spread slowly across the concrete. Ethan stood frozen, breathing heavily. Then another tape recorder clicked on. Lena again, soft, gentle. "If you're hearing this, it means he finally lost control. Ethan, listen to me carefully. What happened when we were children wasn't your fault. You saved me." Ethan broke down crying. For the first time in years, he remembered everything clearly. The abuse, the fear, the blood. And Lena protecting him afterward through all of it. By sunrise, Ethan returned to the lake one final time. Fog drifted quietly across the water, while sunlight slowly broke through the trees. He folded an origami bird carefully, like Lena used to do when they were kids. Inside it, he placed her necklace. Then he let it drift across the water. For the first time in years, his mind felt quiet, peaceful. But as he stood to leave, he noticed something sitting beside him on the dock. Another origami bird, freshly folded. Ethan slowly opened it. Inside were only 4 words. He still doesn't remember everything,